Hello guys! Today I'd like to talk about a few things that you probably didn't know about the Roland GR-55. Now, one of the first things I noticed, if you're new to it and you just want to know a little bit about what it does generally, there's plenty of videos on that if you don't know much about it. But if you've been looking at it and thinking about buying it and you've watched plenty of videos on it, then like me, when I was thinking about buying it and I was watching all the videos I could find on it, in hindsight I've realised that all the videos on the internet don't mention the fact that you can actually use your real pickups from your real guitar and go through digital amplifiers. Now, if you have seen some videos, you'll know that you can have 4 different sounds at once, and in the editing software these 4 sounds are on the left hand side here. But what I didn't know was you can take your normal pickups, you can have both the guitars, the digital guitar and the real guitar, going into separate amplifiers, or you can have them both going into the same amplifier, and you can also choose whichever preamp you want, whether it be Mesa Boogie or Fender or Marshall, and go into whichever power amp you want as well. You can really mix it up and do whatever you like with it. It was a real big surprise to me what you can do with it. Also, a lot of videos on the Roland GR-55 say you can only have 2 synth sounds and then 2 guitar sounds. So you can have your 2 synth sounds or your sampled sounds, like you can have a piano with a orchestra, that'd be your 2 synth sounds, and then your other 2 blocks are for guitar. Actually, the 3rd block can also be a synth sound if you like, and you've also got a choice of synth sounds. It's not a very big list, but each synth sound has its own set of options. So you can actually have 3 synthesized sounds plus your real pickups, either going through a digital amp on the Roland GR-55, or you can have your guitar, your real pickups going out to a real amplifier. Also, there's a video out there by Kenneth Russell, I believe his name is. He's got a great channel, you should go check him out. But he was a bit disappointed with the Roland GR-55 because he seemed to believe that you couldn't change the sounds, like turn off an effect or lower the volume or higher the volume, without swapping to another patch. And when you swap to another patch, there is a split second silence, which would make it difficult changing your sound whilst you're playing. What he didn't seem to realise is you can choose between 8 different assigns in the top right hand corner here on the software. The software, by the way, is not created by Roland, but you can just Google it and go get it, and it's a great piece of software. It's independently made by somebody else. It works fine. Whether or not you've got the software or not, you've got 8 assigns, which means you can change 8 different things, 8 different parameters of your tone, whichever you choose, however you choose to change them with the control pedal or the buttons on the GK3 pickup, I believe it's called. There's loads of different ways to change it. You can even use MIDI, and I think if you use MIDI, you can change as many parameters as you want within that one patch, and they all change instantly. So you should have plenty of options for changing your sound within one track as you're playing live. Also, you can change the structure here. So this amp is now running through into another amplifier. So you can use, say, the Boogie for an example, like Metallica are meant to done with the Black Album. They used a Mesa Boogie preamp, and then they went into Marshall. This is a Marshall Stack 1, Marshall Stack 2. And these stacks, this is what's a bit confusing about this software and the way it's laid out, is these stacks, it actually means power amp. It doesn't tell you that. It just makes you think you're selecting speakers, but it actually means power amp. Yeah, here's a speaker switch, that means power amp. For some reason they've just labelled it wrong. And this is your preamp, but you can just switch the preamp off here. If you want, you can go from one preamp into another preamp and then into a power amp, but that can make it sound a bit strange, so you tend to turn this off, which is the preamp here. So now I've got a Mesa Boogie going into a Marshall stack, into a Marshall preamp basically. And like I say, to make it go from this amp into this amp, you just make sure you've got it set like this. So it's going from the amp. See, the way it's set out is a bit strange. When it's put in, it shows you the mod and distortion after the amp. It doesn't actually mean that literally. This is why it's a bit confusing, is the Roland GR-55. And it's not just like this in this software, it's also like this in the GR-55 graphics in the actual unit. It's telling you that this is the way the chain's going visually, but it doesn't mean that. It still puts the distortion before the amp, and then it's running at the minute into the other amp. You just got to switch the other amp on, and now it's set for a Boogie preamp going into a Marshall power amp. I'm sure there's more to learn about the Roland GR-55. It really is a good piece of kit. All in all, it's a bit old now. I think it's about 12 years old. So the digital distortion in there isn't the best. But if you're willing to play with it and take out that high-end fizz, some really good distortion sounds to be got. The distortion sounds that Roland have programmed into it as their factory presets aren't that great, but if you play with the sound yourself, certainly I found that I can get some decent heavy or less distortion sounds. Cheers guys, bye bye for now.